Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Culture Netherlands versus Sweden. So apparently there's a lot of cultural differences, I don't know, but we're gonna find out. I'm excited. So let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe. This place is beautiful. Is this Sweden or the Netherlands? I'm so confused. Probably Sweden. What? Okay, this is scary. What's with the old cars? I'm very confused. This is like a graveyard for cars. This place looks haunted. Mold. A butterfly. He's goals in it. It's abandoned. Nobody cares.
I don't know. I'm guessing saunas or something. And there's a third one over there, but that one is a lot more collapsed. Weird.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about some cultural differences and things you might run into when you come to Sweden. A little bit of a warning before I start making this list. This is all my own experience, and the experience for you might be different. And everything I list might just be in the area where I live and not somewhere else in Sweden. Also, some of the things I say might sound negative towards Sweden, but that's not my intent. They're just different, and different doesn't mean bad. Okay,
Yes.
What will you notice when you come to Sweden? Well, first of all, if you visit people's homes, taking off your shoes. Yeah, of course we take off our shoes in Holland sometimes as well, but here in Sweden it seems a lot more strict.
Oh.
It's even sometimes to the degree that if you invite somebody into your house, they don't want to come in because they have complicated shoes on, like working boots or something, and they don't want to take them off. It's too much effort.
Okay.
Taking off your shoes in somebody's house, a lot more strict here in Sweden. Another thing that you might run into just on your vacations here, Swedish people like to stick to themselves and their own social groups. You won't just start a conversation with somebody out of nowhere. Like in Holland, when you're waiting on the bus stop or waiting on an elevator or just waiting in line at the grocery store, you can just strike up a conversation with somebody.
Normally.
Not so in Sweden. People like to stick to themselves, mind their own business, and don't give their opinions too much about other people around them. When visiting beautiful cultural locations or natural locations, here in Sweden they're not so much about safety. Like, if you were to visit a waterfall around here, you can just, walk up to the cliff's edge, and usually there's no fence or anything to protect it. Same thing with beautiful cultural stuff. Usually there is no protection between the cultural object and you. Not for your safety and not for the cultural safety. People trust other people a lot more around here to let everything be the way it is and to take your own safety into account. For instance, I've found mine entrances in the forests in Sweden. Usually in Holland, those mine entrances would have been boarded shut so that you couldn't get in. Not here in Sweden. They're just open and you can walk in if you want. But your safety is your responsibility when you're out and about in nature. And if you find a mine entrance and decide to go in, that's your responsibility. Now, when talking about safety in nature and when just hiking around, what I just said is very true. But when it comes to the workplace and your work environment, safety is a very high priority in Sweden. So do not think people are unsafe in Sweden. They are very safety conscious. But they expect you to take care of your own safety when you're in nature and walking around. With that said, in Sweden there's also something called the Allemansrätt, which is a law here that you are allowed to go on everybody's land, everybody's property. Oh. It's not like in America or other places, like the opposite. If somebody owns a piece of land, it's private property and you cannot go on there. You are allowed to go on there. But you need to leave it the same way you found it. If you want to go camping in your tent in the middle of the forest, you can. There are a few little things to think about though. If you are near a house or a occupied building, ask for permission. You don't need to, but it's nice to do so. If you see the house and that person is definitely the landowner, go to the house and ask if it's okay to camp there, or just don't camp there at all. The other part, gardens are off
Can't you just camp in someone's backyard? That seems weird.
limits. You can't just go into somebody's garden. This rule only applies to forests and fields. But if landowners post a sign that it's private property and they do not wish for you to enter, then the law says you cannot enter. But if you don't see a sign, you're allowed to enter. So vacationing in Sweden, pretty easy. You don't always need to go to a camping. You just park your van, your camper, your car, and your tent wherever you want and sleep, which is really nice.
That's weird to me.
Another interesting thing here in Sweden, when you come here for your vacation, the word museum doesn't mean the same thing here as it does back in Holland.
What?
Yes, they do have the same kind of museums that we have in Holland, like big buildings with lots of history or art or cultural stuff. But it isn't strange to see a sign museum in the middle of the forest, and when you follow that sign you just come to a old ruined building. The property owner of that ruined building probably just knows the history of that building, has put up a little sign and called it a museum. Yes, museums are kind of different. Yes, they have the big cultural museums, but you also have people calling things museums that definitely, to our definitions, are
That's strange. That's very strange.
This is... Yep. That brings me to stuff like ruins. You are able to find old ruins of castles and buildings and other kinds of things around in Sweden. Close to where I live, I know of at least 3-4 castles within 2 hours drive. Very cool places to visit. 3 of those 4 castles, you can just walk into them and look at them. Now, there isn't much left. It's just basically almost ground level. All the walls are gone. There's no more roof or ceiling or anything like that. Back in Holland, you would definitely have them being fenced off, lots of signage that you cannot enter or that kind of stuff. But here they're just ruins, and they do point them out with signs, and the tourist information will tell you about them. But yeah, you just go there, park, and walk on. It's not that much protecting them. Of course, there are castles that are being renovated, or there is a club that takes care of them and you need to pay entrance.
It's private.
But the most that I know aren't like that. They're just ruins that are almost gone, and you can just walk in and look at them and have a picnic on top of them. Also, talking about parking and driving around, as you can see, I'm walking on a gravel road. I'm waiting for the wind to stop. I might have this number wrong, but I think 70% of all Swedish roads are not paved. They're still sand and gravel roads. That's just because the country is so enormously big and the number of people here is quite small. They don't need all the roads to have tarmac. Also, a very small amount of roads have street lighting. You can expect street lighting only in the cities.
No, that's crazy.
Not on big roads between cities even. So if you do come here, make sure your car is in top-tip shape and that it's ready to drive over some uneven gravel roads.
That's insane to me.
If you spend your vacation in Sweden, expect shops to be closed between 12 and 2. Yeah.
Okay.
People here
For
go
lunch.
on break, and their break is very important. In Holland, when you go to a shop, a store, or a company, or a business, and you get there while they're on break, they will put their sandwich down, help you, and once they're done helping you, they will continue eating. Not so in Sweden.
It's sacred.
If they're on break, they lock their doors. You cannot even get into the shop or store or business. No, there is no way they're gonna help you because they're on break. Which is both a good and a bad thing. Good for them, because, you know, they get to have a break and without any stress. Bad for us, because we want something and we cannot get it. Now I'm saying 12 and 2, not because they have a 2-hour break, just because I'm saying that because some companies or stores have their break between 12 and 1 and others have their break between 1 and 2. So usually it's just 1 hour. Now, talking about breaks, here in Sweden they eat a lot more often than we do in Holland, and better as well. They have breakfast, then they have fika, then they have lunch, probably fika again, and then they'll have evening dinner. This is true for when they are at home, but this might not be true when they are out working. When they're out working, it's usually just breakfast, lunch and dinner. Now, here they have a warm lunch. What we back in Holland used to have as a dinner, just warm potatoes with meat and vegetables, or any other kind of warm dinner you can think about, they'll have that here as lunch. And then during dinner time in the evening, they'll have a warm meal again.
That seems
And
normal.
I have to say, it took some getting used to, but I kind of like it. I like having two warm meals a day.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get lazy and you go back to your Dutch mentality and you just don't want to make a warm dinner for lunch. So you
Sandwich.
just whip out some sandwiches. And then all the Swedish people look at you strange, like, what is this guy? What kind of lunch is that?
Really?
Now, for some differences for when you move to Sweden and want to work here and live here. Don't expect to make friends. Sorry. Yeah. Here, especially around where I live, people like to mind their own business and they expect you to do the same. So don't expect to make any friends.
Oh my god.
Swedish people around where I live at least make friends as children in school or at work, or maybe a sports club where they train together. If you aren't there from the beginning, they will have a hard time letting you come into their social life.
Great. Not.
Sometimes here in Sweden it seems that people make friends during their years as children or teenagers, and after that they never make friends again. I've had this confirmed by a couple of Swedish people that know about this and think it's also a bit strange. That's just the way it is, especially around where I live.
It's sad.
Of course, there are Swedish people that are very friendly and will make friends with you, but somehow that deep friendship that you can have with most Dutch people, even later in life, that doesn't seem to be easy for Swedish people later in life.
That's sad to me.
So how do you make friends with Swedish people?
You don't.
Well, you can't just shower them with gifts or anything like that. You can't be overly friendly. That stuff doesn't work. Get a job, learn the language, and be there and do the job well. That's the way I made some friends. Just be there daily. Like if they have a sports club or something, every time they meet up, be there as well.
Okay.
If you go to the gym, go there often, and if you see the same people a lot, talk to them a lot. It takes a lot of time to become friends with a Swedish person. But when you do make friends with them, they are very nice people to hang out with, and they will help you as much as they can. But if they give you a finger, don't take their arm. That doesn't work.
Good
Also,
advice,
something
always.
interesting. If they invite you for coffee and you come over and drink coffee, next time you see each other, thank them. You need to thank them for the last time you got coffee, or the last time you got
Wouldn't you thank them like when they're buying you coffee or when you're at their house?
to come over. I am very bad at this, but it's something that's part of Swedish culture. You thank them for the last time you got to come over to their place. Swedish people are rule followers. They will follow the rules to the letter. They are very strict. If you come to a bicycle store with a bicycle of a brand that they don't sell, they won't fix it for you. They will follow the rules to the letter. If you need something from somebody and it's not normal for them to do so, they won't do it. While back in Holland, if you come to a car company that doesn't usually fix your brand of cars, they say, we'll do it, but it's going to cost you extra because we need to get the parts from somebody else.
Yeah.
That doesn't work here in Sweden. And that is because they don't have enough competition. Businesses here aren't fighting for you as a customer.
Oh.
They don't care if you become their customer or not.
You can
In
leave.
Holland, everybody is fighting for customers. They really care to keep you around as a customer, and they will do a lot more than here in Sweden. Which of course is very nice and relaxing for the company, and if you work for one of those companies, you don't need to work your butt off to keep the customer around. But as a customer, it's less fun. Of course, following rules is a good thing, but flexibility is also a good thing.
Correct.
And like I said, it's not a negative, it's just different. One very important thing, learn the language. You will not get a job if you don't speak Swedish.
That
Of
seems
course,
right to
there
me.
are exceptions, but the jobs that you can get without learning the language are usually temporary. In my experience, it's almost impossible to get the job without learning the language. I myself spent 2 years getting my first actual good job after I moved to Sweden. It wasn't easy at all. But once I started
bet.
learning the language, the job came a lot easier. But once you have a job, do not be the best. You know the expression, tall trees catch a lot of wind? Yeah, that's very true here in Sweden. If you are the best, they don't like competing with you. And
That's
especially
crazy.
not competing with somebody that isn't Swedish. If you are constantly the best, and especially if you're bragging about it, they won't like you. They have a word here that's called lagom. which is basically the word for average. They like stuff that is average. Everything needs to be average. Average is the best. Which of course can be very nice, because that means you don't have to work your ass off. You just work normally. And we interrupt this program with this.
What are those? A swan? What is that? I have no idea what type of bird it is. I'm blind.
I love wildlife. Did you know those cranes
Oh, it's a crane.
come all the way from Africa here just to get to lay their eggs and have children here in Sweden? Yeah, during the spring, summer, they are here, and during the rest of the year, they're in Africa.
That's crazy.
A long way to fly just to have some babies. Now, what I'm about to say, there will be a lot of people that don't agree with me on this, but this is a theory that I have come up with myself. But you can notice that the Swedish people didn't take part in the Second and First World War. Yeah. My grandparents, both on my mom and my dad's side, were teenagers, or a little bit younger. Well, the Second World War was still happening. Which means
Wow.
that we Dutch people all got brought up with things in mind like don't throw away food, don't throw away things or objects that are still good. If you
Yeah.
have food left over, you keep it in the fridge for the next day. If you have an object that still works but you don't want it anymore, you try to sell it or give it away to somebody that needs it or wants it. But throwing away something that's good, never
It's
seen that
wasteful.
happen in Holland. Here in Sweden it happens all the time. So much food gets thrown away at my work. So much food just ends up in the garbage bin. If you go
That's
and take out
awful.
your trash here in Sweden, people will be throwing away a perfectly fine couch, a whole couch that's fine, just because they got a new couch. They don't think about selling that couch even. They don't think about giving it to somebody else. Of course, there are people that think about this a lot more, and it's becoming more normal here in Sweden to sell
Be
your
frugal.
things or give it away to the Red Cross or something like that. But when I first moved here, wasn't that normal. Hunting is big here in Sweden, and if you want to keep your friends or make friends, don't tell them that you're against hunting.
Oh
You
no.
can be against hunting, and that is fine. Just don't tell them. Yes, of
No.
course, there are people that are against hunting here in Sweden too. But you will not be making friends if you tell everybody that they're doing a bad thing. And I'm lost. I'm lost. I don't know where I am. I know my way back. But this isn't the path I was wanting to take. I thought I would end up somewhere else. Oh well, back I go. Back to the whole thing where you can notice that the Swedish people haven't been in a war for a very long time. Like stuff like electricity. It is so normal to drive around in Sweden at night and then see all the lights in all the houses turned on. It is not normal here to turn your lights off in the room where you aren't. If you aren't in a room in Holland, you turn the lights off in that room. Because
Yes.
why use electricity
It's
if
wasteful.
you aren't there? Not so in Sweden. All the lights in the entire house are turned on. Also something that's starting to change. The electricity prices have become pretty high, a lot higher than the Swedish people are used to, and they're finally starting to turn off their lights.
Good.
Again, this of course has advantages. It looks pretty cozy if you drive past the house and all the lights are on. It looks pretty nice and inviting. I know that a lot of what I'm saying sounds like criticism, and I guess sometimes it is, but I like living in Sweden. I love living in Sweden. I don't think I'll ever move back to Holland. It's such an amazing country to live in. It is awesome. And why do those things then sound like criticism? It's because I'm used to something different. I mean, if I were to be born here, none of this criticism would have been the same.
Of course.
And I'm just used to different things, and that doesn't mean that the way Swedish people do it is bad. Not at all. It's just different from what I'm used to. I love this country. I love the nature. I love everything about it. It is a great place. And once you get used to the differences, you'll do fine, and it's awesome, and it's, yeah. I don't see myself leaving Sweden for a while. One more time. Everything I just said is just something I've experienced in my local area where I hang out. This doesn't mean that everything I said is how the rest of Sweden works. This is just what I have noticed. So don't you take my words and make them into something bad about Sweden, because I love this place. Anyway, yeah, so I just wanted to talk about this and let everybody know that if they ever come to Sweden on just a vacation or wanting to live here, what to expect culturally. But if there's one thing that I can't stand about Swedish people, is they changed the name of all the Disney characters. I mean,
What?
Donald Duck is called Donald Duck everywhere in the world. Mickey Mouse is called Mickey Mouse everywhere in the world. Not here in Sweden.
What?
Donald Duck is called Kalle Anka and Mickey Mouse is called Mr. Pig. Why? Why, Swedish people, do you do
That's
this?
strange.
Anyway, I hope you all had fun watching. This was a different kind of vlog. I hope it was informative, and see you all next time. Bye.
Okay, yes, this was very informative. I think there's it's funny because he was like, well, it's not a criticism, and I get what he means. It's not technically like it wasn't a criticism, but I think I liked it because even though it wasn't like what I'm going with this is that he wasn't being like positive or negative. He was just being very like neutral, as in like this is what's happening. Like in Sweden, usually like obviously because it's like his experience, and he made sure to mention that it's I don't really know where he is exactly. But he mentioned, you know, it was in my area, and this is what I've seen. This is my experience and my perspective. But he wasn't trying to be like overly positive or overly negative. I felt that he was being very sort of like neutral, just my unbiased experience, as much as unbiased can be, because, you know, it's my experience and it's what I think. But what I'm going with this is that I think it was very like neutral, I think, in a way. So it really does like give me, I think it was very like eye-opening to me, like, wow, I really do get the sense of like the sort of like a bigger picture of what Swedish people are like and what Swedish culture actually is. And I liked it because I think it is very, again, it's like sort of like a neutral point of view, because he's not trying to be like overly positive or overly negative. He was just like, you know, I'm laying it down as I've seen it, and it's like, yes, you know, I like it, and I get the way he means that it can sound negative, but it wasn't a criticism. It was just like, this is how it is. Like, of course, if you come from a different culture, or you have like different values, or I don't know, you have like a different personality, maybe you're going to be thinking, wow, like this is like negative, I don't like this. But yeah, but that's like your judgment, and that's like your face value. That's what you're thinking. If you like those values, you're not thinking that's bad. You're thinking, oh well, that's good, I would fit right in. So I think on that part, it was very like, yes, I like that. It was very like sort of like neutral. I think it's a very informative sort of like video, in the sense of like, if you're thinking of like of moving to Sweden, and maybe like moving, because I think on vacation, like you can just like visit on vacation anywhere else, anywhere in the world, and even if you don't like it, it's like, it's fine. Like I'm staying here for like, I don't know, a month tops, so it's fine. Like I'm not staying here forever. So it's like I don't, who cares if I don't like it? It's just a vacation. But if you're planning on moving somewhere, you need to have like a more informed view about like how this place is like and how this place is. So I think like if someone is planning to like moving to Sweden, I think this video is perfect because it's like, wow, it really does illustrate like really, I think, core points of like Swedish culture that I think are maybe unfamiliar to a lot of people. Unfamiliar as in like I wasn't aware they did this, or it was like up to that extent. I think, you know, there are some good things. I like the fact that they eat a lot, like they have to warm meals. That sounds nice. That sounds very cozy. I think there's like some things that I kind of like don't agree as much. I think maybe I don't agree. I think that would be like, I don't know if that's the right term, but I think as a whole, I think Swedish culture is like they're very closed, as in like socially, but also like from what I could gather, they're also very, I know, like narrow-minded probably would be a correct term. You know, narrow-minded in a lot of like sense, in basically every sense. The fact that they're like very like strict rule followers, and they will not like go out of their way to like maybe help you if like the rules say it so, because, you know, the rules say it like this, so we have to follow it. And that coupled with, which, you know, would be fine, you know, and out of context, but that coupled with the fact that they're real like close people, like he said, you don't really get to like do small talk like on the street. That's really frowned upon. Or friends, you know, you're not like, it's hard to make friends as an adult, and especially if you're moving there, no one's gonna like talk to you, and no one's gonna be you know, friends with you, because they already have their own friends, and they don't really see the need to like, oh, I'm getting new friends, because I already have my group of friends that I've known since I was, you know, 4 years old. So it is that those things like sort of like coupled together made me think they're very close. Like they're very closed down. They're very narrow-minded, and they expect things to be done in a certain way, and they expect life to be like to follow a certain path. And they are not expecting to like meet new people. You know, no, I already have my friends. I already have my circle. So I think, again, that could be seen as a negative, maybe. Like if you have a different kind of personality, I get what you would think, like, well, that's awful, I couldn't live like that. But of course, if you share those values, you're thinking, well, that's great. Like Sweden seems like the perfect place to me. So it is a little bit like surprising to me that to see them as being so narrow-minded. I don't know, because I'm like, it's in like people tend to be like a little more open in this day and age. So that was a little shocking to me. As well as the whole, I think, you know, there are some positives, like language, for instance. Yes, of course, if you're moving there, you're like, oh my god, I have to learn Swedish. It's awful, because it's a very hard language. But I agree, like if you're living somewhere else, as in like you're living there permanently, you have to learn the language. Like, yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But I think one of the things that I'm like a little also like shocking to me is that it's already hard to make friends, and then like also like they're into hunting. So if you like mention, hey, I am against hunting, I don't like this, then it's like, oh well, then you're pariah. It's like no one will be friends with you ever. So it is like, oh my god. So hunting is like a really big deal over there, which I think it's crazy. The whole like you can just go around and walk normally like anywhere else. Like I think especially like in America and in the United States, it is very like there's harsh rules against that. Like you can't just like walk around someone's property, because that's, you know, like they can shoot you for it. So it is, I like that in the sense of like it's basically the opposite over there, of like if you don't put up a sign, like you just have people just walking in your backyard, in your garden, or, you know, that seems weird to me. It's strange. I think not the walking part, because it's like, well, yeah, you can roam freely, but like setting up a tent in your garden or in your backyard, that would be a little extreme to me. I think I would definitely put up a sign saying like, this is private property. I don't know, like I don't know, like I also like myself thinking like the opposite. Like if the roles were reversed. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't like to like put up a tent in like someone's garden, because it's like, I don't know you. I don't know, I don't know, I wouldn't be comfortable with this. So it is, and it's also kind of like really weird to me that you could just sort of like set up a tent, whatever, but they're like very close-minded people. So it is a little like, they're supposed to like, if I go by that, you shouldn't like people just like roaming in your backyard. But apparently like it's normal for them. But one thing I actually have to say that was also like quite surprising to me was the fact that they seem like very wasteful people. I think like at least how he was like mentioning like, oh, they throw away good things instead of like thinking about like selling them or donating them. Like, oh, if it's in good condition and maybe like you either sell it, and if you can't sell it, well, at least I'm donating it because it can help someone else. No, they just like throw it away, which I think like I agree. Maybe it's a thing about like they've lived like very comfortable lives, as in like historically, not as in like personally. But historically, maybe they've lived like very comfortable lives, and he's like he mentioned, like if you come from like if you like usually countries that have gone through wars or the hardships and people and cultures of the sort, like they have to be resourceful because they've gone through like the harder times, so they are they're more mindful about like, hey, why would you like waste like this good food? Like we can still like we can save this, and again they're probably a little bit more frugal. And that I think also comes with the like the whole turning off like the light switches and like saving water, electricity and stuff like that. So it's I wasn't expecting this to come from like Swedish people. I'm like, well, I know that they're very practical people, but it's crazy that they're just like so like wasteful about it. So then maybe it's that he mentioned like if they're a culture that hasn't gone through like a lot of hardships, so I can see why they just don't care and they're not thinking of that mentality of like, hey, we have to be frugal, we have to like help other people, or we can still like earn some money out of this, or we can save money by like turning off the lights. So it is like that was probably the most shocking part of the video, and like good for them. They haven't gone through a lot of hardships, but I think like coming from other places, they can be seen as like, wow, like you seem like it's good to like, I don't know, to save just because of like not just like because of like, oh no, but I don't have any issues with this. It's like, yes, like maybe it doesn't cost me like to have the lights on. And it's like, yeah, well, but the environment, I don't know, it just seems like, I don't know, it seems wasteful to me. But yes, I think out of the whole, I like taking it as a whole, again, I see this as like a very eye-opening video that's really informative about like Swedish culture. And it's like, these are the facts. It's like really, I liked it because it was like, yes, you can make like informed decisions about whether or not this will be like a good place for you, because it was very neutral, but like telling you the facts. It's like, yes, I like that. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.